to the pop culture cosmos.
And we're back with another Pop Culture Cosmos. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here for the Pop Culture Cosmos. Inside Sports Fantasy Football and the Lakers Fast Break. Truly appreciate you joining us on this special episode. Hopefully you will enjoy the next hour of Marvel talk. And of course, along with me is my good friend. It wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without my good friend indeed. He is the mastermind behind Humanican Media, the Happy Hoarder, and so much more. He's even got an esports team ready for action that he is building as we speak. It is my good friend. It is Josh the Magnificent Peterson. What's up, man?
What is good, man? How you doing?
Doing okay. Ready to talk some Marvel. I think that I when I spoke to you about doing these special episodes, and we're going to do another one at some time down the road in regards to Star Wars. And if you want to do any more, you just give me the high sign, and we're going to do it, man. Because I just want to make sure that we go over what has been a major source of information and news for our show for the past 9+ years as we're talking right now. So Marvel, as we're talking about, is not in the greatest place. And 2026 is going to be the year, by the end of the year, when Avengers Doomsday is going to be a telling point for where Disney and Marvel will be at going forward. Yes, there is a Spider-Man movie that's going to happen beforehand. I think that's you as a bigger Spider-Man fan than I am, I believe it's going to probably tell me exactly about what that reliance on Spider-Man brand will do for Marvel. And I know it'll be big for Marvel coming in the summer of 2026. But where are we now with Marvel? Coming off the huge success of Avengers Endgame in 2019, I think a lot of people just they exhaled, sigh of relief, and they felt, I think, that it was time for them to move on. The problem is with the juggernaut that was Disney and Marvel, they weren't ready for you as a consumer to move on, were they?
No, not at all. Well, I mean, it's the same principle. Look at a lot of these, science fiction franchises we've had since the late 80s, early 90s are still going, and not necessarily because the movies are high quality. It's just because they bring some money in, man. And I think that that's where Marvel is constantly stumbling. I mean, Kevin Feige had talked about it recently, the quality over quantity. But for a long time back when the old CEO was in charge, it was quantity over quality. Let's put out as many Marvel things as we can per year. And the problem with that was, sometimes there's a gem of an episode or a movie, but most of the time there was not.
Where did it all go wrong? Because a lot of people will point there. When they look back on the history of Marvel and the MCU, they're going to point to right as the 2020 started, COVID and everything relating to that. I think it actually started a little bit before that. The setup, what was coming on as far as the Avengers Endgame and also Infinity War, that was run beautifully. But the movies surrounding it, you could see little flaws here and there. The TV shows, little flaws here and there. But then it was okay. You could brush it underneath you could put it underneath the rug, brush it underneath the rug, because the fact is, you had two huge behemoths of movies that could just pick up any slack, could take care of anything, any mistakes that Marvel may have made beforehand, previously heading into 2020. But I also think that the fact that you didn't put out Black Widow and Hawkeye before Avengers Endgame and also Infinity War. I thought that was a mistake. I really think that they should have incorporated those two beforehand while they were thought of in a major sense in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I know that, of course, COVID really hurt Black Widow, but I also think it's just the brand names of both those individuals probably would have worked better as far as being made and released somewhere earlier in the timeline. But then introducing so many characters afterwards in recent years that just haven't resonated with fans. It
No.
is part a superhero fatigue, but it also is the fact that I just think there are characters as well that have not resonated with fans that just say, you know what, we got to go and check out everything that they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of like not off brand, but I mean off the mainstream type characters. You know, you had like your Miss Marvel, your Moon Knight, the Thunderbolts, like a lot of these characters who exist in the comic books, but they're not necessarily like mainstays of the Marvel universe. But also you have this problem where what do you do when you can't have a Marvel universe and just have, you know, Iron Man and Spider-Man and Thor and Captain America. Like there's a lot more to it than that. I mean, I think Marvel took a chance with Guardians of the Galaxy, and that paid off pretty well. And now that team went from having nobody who knew about them to having a lot of people that know about them. So I think they were trying to catch that magic again, but it just wasn't. You know, they were already fighting against a system of I don't know, people who are slightly worn out on superhero movies who might not be willing to give something like that a chance as much as they once were back when Guardians of the Galaxy came out.
Let's go back a little bit further because when we do, I think we'll also talk about and we'll also discover more reasons why there's a lot of issues right now heading into hopefully will be a recovery period for Marvel later in 2026. But let me ask you this. You know, you and I have been talking about Marvel now, as I said, well, actually, going on 10 years, even when we were back at National University. I mean, one of the first things that really impressed me was your written articles and your written pieces on Spider-Man himself. And then that got us interested as far as for video games first, but then we evolved. And part of the reason I started the Pop Culture Cosmos with you was the fact that our discussions easily tailed off into things such as the Marvel Cinematic Universe. What do you think was so appealing about this, and why did it work so well for so long?
Well, I mean, look at we had nothing but you know, for lack of a better term, crap superhero movies for a long time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there were some gems out there, right? I mean, we had X-Men wasn't a good movie. Blade was okay. Blade 2 was even better. You know, what else was out there? The Schumacher Batman movies were pretty bad. So Sam Raimi Spider-Mans were okay up until Spider-Man 3. So there was no consistency with superhero movies. And then you think about it, for a long time, they've been talking about like, hey, we're going to do an Iron Man movie. I forget who had the rights to it back then, but and then all of a sudden we see this trailer and we're like, oh man, so this is how superhero movies could be made. And Iron Man to me was like that was the genesis of everything. This entire, just even outside the MCU, this was like the genesis of the superhero Hollywood superhero explosion, right? And you look at it though, like everything in that movie, everything about that movie was top of the line, right? Everything from Iron Man's armor to the acting to it was just a really cool, really cool movie. And to me, like that was where they did it right. That was where they did it right. You had somebody, John Favreau obviously cared about the comic books. You had, because here's a bigger problem too, right? We have Bryan Singer, Brett Ratner, Guillermo del Toro did Blade 2, and like I said, that one's really good. But for the most part, you have a lot of directors and filmmakers making these movies that had never read the comic books before. And Ratner had even, or Bryan Singer had even admitted in a documentary that he had never seen, never what he X-Men, right? Bryan Singer was X-Men. He
Yes.
had never read an X-Men comic book, watched the X-Men cartoon, but he still made the movie. So I think when they moved into an era of having directors who actually knew the properties make the movies, I think that's when everything changed.
For me, again, like I said, Blade was such a outlier because superhero movies. The Superman movies at that point in time had left something to be desired after the original and number two were so good. Three and four in the 80s had unfortunately not left a lot of people with good feelings on superhero movies at that time. 1989's Batman movie, Tim Burton's movie, just was absolutely something that uh, stylistically was just something different that we saw, which was actually pretty good. And obviously, like you said, it led into the Joel Schumacher films, but
Yeah.
Blade was just something different altogether, and it just resonated with a certain segment of the audience of geek culture, and I just appreciate it because it had such a cool, slick look and atmosphere, and it didn't get replicated to the point where I was seeing where it was going to go continuously. You said Guillermo del Toro to number two. Number two was okay for me. I know you seem to like it a lot better than I did, but I thought it was okay. Of course, Trinity was Blade Trinity was actually a different story altogether.
Oh my
Less said
god.
about that. Less said about that, better.
I don't want
The Daredevil movies in the early 2000s with Ben Affleck and then Jennifer Garner with Elektra, that obviously didn't work out as well as thought. The Fantastic Four movies at that point in time in the early 2000s, yeah, there was a sequel, but did it really resonate with people enough? I don't think it really did. It was kind of campy and light for what it was. Not really just really heavy implications on that. But it was the Hulk movies, I think, that started to get people thinking about what could be. The first Hulk movie, which I actually like better than the second Hulk movie, which actually is the one that's tied to the MCU. I like Eric Bana's Hulk better than I just feel it's a Eric Bana's portrayal of the Hulk I thought was more human.
It's a lot more psychological, like that. It's
Yes.
less comic booky and more like a battle against himself and like the inner nature, like human nature.
Yeah, I agree. And it was just something where I liked it and resonated with it, but obviously it didn't resonate with large enough of an audience. So they had to redo it again later on in 2008 to help kick off the MCU. But I think actually, in a way, the MCU owes a debt of gratitude to Christopher Nolan. Because when Christopher Nolan created Batman Begins, excuse me, Batman Begins,
Yeah.
it's just such a really, really good movie. I think a lot of people underappreciated it then, but now have a greater appreciation for it now. I really thought it is really how you introduce your a major character like that back into the comic book world. I really thought it did a great job of resonating with a larger audience. And obviously, from that we got The Dark Knight, which truly stepped up the plate as far as what comic book movies could be. And I think it's still one of the standard bearers for comic book movies all time. And in fact, one of the greatest performances by Heath Ledger on film, and Christian Bale is no slouch either in that movie. I just think it resonates with audiences, but it showed where you could take superhero movies. So when Marvel regained its mojo, regained its format, decided to go ahead and take a risk and make the movies under their own banner, and go into the Hulk movie and go into with Edward Norton and go into the Iron Man movie and start seeing from there it was just so good to see, because you got that little hint of what maybe is to come, and of course Kevin Feige, not the birth of Kevin Feige as an executive per se, but the realization that there is someone now on the side of fans that is going to start trying to piece this together. And for me, that was what was kind of interesting. But I didn't even get hooked until the 2010s, until Thor, until Captain America, until I saw the residuals from that. I got hooked in later than you on this, but I'm telling you, it that's what it did. The growing, I guess the growing maturation of what the MCU is being. You could start seeing what they were envisioning by the time 2010 rolls around, and you can start seeing that they had a plan going forward, and that you could invest your time in the movie theaters. And that for me is probably one of the most I guess memorable parts of my time with the MCU.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. Hold on one second.
No worries. All good. But for me, when I'm doing that, as far as the MCU, when I'm seeing the MCU at that point in time, I thought it just became something I wanted to be a part of. It was that time. It's just something it wasn't something I felt like I had to do. It felt like something I wanted to do, as far as catch all these movies when I could.
Yeah, well, I mean, look at it. It's like you said, they had a plan. You had the Iron Man and Captain America and Thor and all these the Hulk, all these properties connected to each other. Like that was the first time there'd been connective tissue between, superheroes that existed in the same universe, right? Like Fox had an opportunity to introduce X-Men and Daredevil and Fantastic Four all into the same world, but they never did it. They never did it until they saw how successful it was with Marvel. But by the time they got the ball rolling on that, they were already in the process of losing those properties. So, I mean, for me personally, like watching Iron Man and seeing Samuel L. Jackson go, hey, we're putting a team together. And it was the potential of that, the potential of all those characters on the same screen. That's what got me hooked. That was the connected universe. This had never been done before. Now it's been beaten to death, but it had never been done before at this point. And to me, that was what got me excited. That's what made me want to keep going back and watching more. Obviously, we'd never seen. There are heroes out there like Thor, right? We're like, oh, how's that going to work on the big screen? And it worked okay. It wasn't amazing, but that it was the potential for connection that made it seem so magnificent at the time, if that makes sense.
So where did it all go wrong? And I said there was little bits and pieces of hints of what to come in the during that MCU period. I mean, they not every film resonated or worked with audiences. There were some movies that, again, that were not universally praised, but they were always able to overcome it, Josh. So if there was any bad movies in the mix, they always had another good one coming right around the corner that people could go ahead and say, okay, I watched Thor: The Dark World, but you know what? It sucked, but there's something good coming around the corner right behind it. So the thing was, for me, once this decade came around and we were watching mediocre or less than mediocre TV series or movies, I didn't feel that same confidence that Marvel was going to get it right the next time around.
Well, okay, so to me, WandaVision, right, the first Marvel TV show ever made, that was I don't know, it was neat. Parts of it were neat, but it's also like it was unnecessary because what made Marvel so special is that we got 1 or 2 Marvel movies a year, and then we reached this point where like it wasn't just a 2-hour movie. You had to commit yourself to a 10-hour series, and that already became a chore. And then there are so many of the series because they're like, oh, and also releasing in 2022 or 23 or whenever it WandaVision happened, like you can also look forward to this, and this year. Like they already had a lineup of like 4 or 5 different Marvel properties coming out and there was no plan. Because right, remember you walked into Iron Man, stayed for the end credit scene. There was a plan, right? Samuel L. Jackson was, I'm putting a team together. Someone's like, oh, Avengers. At the end of each of the Avengers movies, you got to see one of the Infinity Stones. They're like, oh, Thanos. At the end of these, though, you're committing a butt ton of time. You're like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna have time to sit there and watch 3 series and 2 movies. But there was nothing to look forward to. They lost track of where they were going. And I mean, it wasn't until recently where Kevin Feige rectified the situation by removing Kang from the equation that everyone's like, oh yes, finally something's happening. But there was no direction, there's no plot. It was just like we're scattering everything out into the world and seeing how it does because we want to make money off of it. And I think that's where the question of superhero fatigue came in, where people were like, oh man, I'm really like burnt out after Endgame. Like it was so magnificent. How are they going to get there again? And they're putting out these other properties that just were not not only not scratching that itch, but they just weren't good.
Yeah. And that's the problem. You when you have to keep up that level of quality, and it just seems like after 2020, that level of quality, as Kevin Feige himself, the head of Marvel Studios, who after a bitter, sometimes intense internal struggle with other individuals in the mix who also wanted to vie for control of Marvel as far as behind the scenes, as far as the TV or the movies were being done. I think that finally was eradicated and allowed Kevin Feige to go forward because he had obviously the most success with the movies at that point in time. But in doing so, what we've seen is so many new characters introduced, so many new projects that were introduced in the first, if you include 2025, the first half decade of this, of this period of time following Avengers Endgame. Do you think it was too much on Kevin Feige's plate? Do you think there was just too much given to him or expected of him once he gained full control and access to the Marvel pantheon?
Well, I don't necessarily blame all this on Kevin Feige because I think we're seeing a situation like with Jurassic Park, right? You see a studio's like, oh, this can make money, so we're gonna have involve Steven Spielberg less and less in this thing and just bring in anybody we can because we figured out where all the cogs in the machine go. And I think that's what Marvel was doing. I'm sure they're putting Kevin Feige on as a producer, but I don't know how much involvement he was actually being allowed to have, because I know he said that in interviews. He said like a lot of these projects, like I didn't, I wasn't highly involved in a lot of these, and he's even said he's watched some of them and he's been like, what are you guys doing here? So I think that Disney saw the potential for money and they just kind of turned it into a machine. It's a shame too, because Eternals, right? They say is like the most expensive Marvel movie ever made, and absolutely, story was, but the film, the way the film was made, was absolutely beautiful, right? Like that was really pleasing to the eyes, but not much to the anything else. But you have that, and there's a bunch of other stuff out there like Moon Knight, and like there's all these things where they created this, and we're not going to see any of these characters again, right? Like everyone's like, oh, Harry Styles, the Eternals, Camille Nanjiani had said that he was signed on for all these things, and now
6 movies, I believe, and a video game. Yeah,
video game theme park ride, and he said that none of that stuff is happening, or he hasn't heard about any of that stuff happening. So even Kevin Feige has said like, oh, you may or may not see some of those characters again. So you have all this time and money that's been wasted on these things that are really just not going to appear again. So I think a lot of it too, the superhero fatigue, is people knowing stuff like this and be like, oh man, I really wasted my time on this. Because how many people that work like 9-to-5 jobs and have the weekends off, but they have kids, how many people can sit down and in this, go like, oh, I'm gonna watch this like 12-hour Marvel series, or their time, they don't have as much time to consume stuff as as they once did when the MCU started. So they're going to be more particular about where they spend their time and what they spend their time on. And if they find out like, oh, that was a waste of time, why'd I watch that? Why are they going to spend time in the Marvel universe except for like on Spider-Man and Iron Man and stuff like that?
So to close out this half hour on what you think went wrong or what we think went wrong with the MCU, again, it was just too much, too soon, after a period of time where it was really on a high with Avengers Endgame, and that come down part as far as what took place afterwards. I just think, like you said, you can't blame everything on Kevin Feige, but he was the commander of the ship. He was the captain of the ship, steering this course after Avengers Endgame. I just think, again, what was committed to was too much. And once they started seeing, or once, well, COVID hit, and I think that threw everybody for a loop. But once they started to see declining residual returns for their MCU products, maybe they should have spaced things out sooner and started talking about quality over quantity sooner than what they ultimately did.
This happens all the time, though. I mean, look at you. Anytime something is successful, the studios are greedy, man. I mean, they will do anything they can to make as much money off of it as fast as possible. So I don't like we're living in this weird time where like storytelling is traded for money, and if a story does come out that's good, then you can't have stories that are consistently good, because when someone sees like, oh, that's good, K-pop Demon Hunters, whatever, they're going to be like, oh, let's make more of that, and the story it gets worse and worse and worse as it goes on. So Disney got greedy, and it's hard to say like what it's going to take now to turn that ship around. Like even Secret Wars or Doomsday or whatever, like we've gotten our first glimpse at Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom, but they haven't done this is like a new plan, right? So we don't have 5, 6, 7, 8 other movies that are building up to this like we did with Endgame. So I don't know like what the hype level is going to be when these movies finally come out.
Once again, it is, of course, my good friend, Mr. Josh the Magnificent Peterson, along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching, listening. So to wrap everything up as far as the first half hour, we want to mention again, it's not that we are so adamant on what has gone wrong or what has gone poorly for the MCU. A lot of it was just noble, ambition. A lot of it was also, obviously, the search and the continual grasp at what was then a money-making machine in the MCU. But also at some point in time, somebody had to pull the reins on this. They had to start seeing things a little bit more clearly. The fact that there was very little successes and a sea of mediocrity, and also quite a few failures along the way in this decade, I think a lot of it had to be reevaluated a little bit sooner. And unfortunately, they didn't do that real quick.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. It was a lot of missteps, and not thinking they're not thinking about the long-term goal. They're thinking about the quick turnaround, and I think that is really what started to bury them after Thanos was defeated.
So what are your thoughts out there on the Marvel Cinematic Universe and where you think it went wrong? We would love to hear your thoughts on that. Again, we have certain issues, certain things, certain ideas, certain concepts, certain analysis that we talk about when the MCU went wrong at certain points for the audience at large. But what are your thoughts? When did it go wrong for you, or has it? We want to hear your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, 1/2 hour down, 1/2 hour to go here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. It is Josh the Magnificent Peterson, along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching this thing. It's a special edition of the Pop Culture Cosmos. Hopefully we can revisit this again for other IPs such as Star Wars or other IP that Josh and I would like to tackle. Hopefully, I could do other special episodes as well with TJ Johnson. Also, talking as well with my good friend, Mr. John Orlando, on special editions of State of Pro Wrestling as well. So, look forward to that in the coming weeks and months on the Pop Culture Cosmos as well. But, my friend, we talked about what we think went wrong with the Marvel Universe. And as we go into a period of time where there's not going to be much in the way of activity for the Marvel Cinematic Universe at this point in time for 2026. The major notables is a Spider-Man movie that's going to come up in the summer of 2026. There is, of course, on the back end, which kind of conveniently placed. It's interestingly placed as far as later in 2026, during holiday 2026, a movie which at one time was going to be a summer tentpole in Marvel's Avengers Doomsday. And then you also have Daredevil Season 2, which got a lot of acclaim, got some good vibes. Kind of a mixed bag for me. Some good, some not so good. They had to piece it all together and whatnot, but they are coming back with a season 2 for Daredevil, but not a whole lot beyond that. Not a whole lot that they're talking about beyond that outside of X-Men, the rebirth of that. Of course, what happens with Secret Wars as well the following year. But where do you fix it? What can be fixed with Marvel? And do you think it will ever reach the kind of popularity that it had in 2018, 2019?
I don't know, man. I mean, I know like we were saying before, like the Avengers stuff, this direction they're taking is relatively new. I think Kevin Feige's in the right direction, quality over quantity. But we have Spider-Man leading up to Doomsday, like you said, Daredevil Season 2. I keep hearing whispers of like Armor Wars, but I don't know how they're gonna do that now with after Secret Invasion, ruined War Machine. So I don't know how that would work, but there are things that they could do to fill that in. Like I would hope that an X-Men movie would release before Secret Wars, or there's a lot of things they could do to fill those gaps in, or there are the whole Hulk movie, right? Something in there. Obviously the last Captain America movie did not work so well, but there are gaps that they can do to fill in those pieces while we wait that would still be good at building momentum towards what's to come. So I don't know, man. Like I don't know like what the correct way would be to fix this. I know Blade is supposed to come out at some point, but I think that it would be smart of them to have one or two things come out in between Doomsday and Secret Wars.
So that was my next question for you, my friend. So let's say Bob Iger, head of Disney, says, at Kevin Feige, go on a vacation, man, have a good siesta. I'm bringing in Josh the Magnificent Peterson to go ahead and run the Marvel juggernaut going forward for the foreseeable future. And you've looked at what's gone on just before you took control. Is there a certain property? Is there a certain facet of the media, whether you go TV or whether you go just straight movies? Where do you go from here? What do you think needs to be fixed? What can you fix if you were given control? And what do you think can be done to get the MCU back into a bigger spotlight?
So I would focus on, I don't know, maybe loose ends. Like I would focus on, like, Doctor Strange is a good property to use to tie up loose ends. Like he has the ability to shift time and perspective, and he was in charge of busting open the multiverse. Like I would do another Doctor Strange film that could tie up any loose ends that would lead into whatever's going to go down in Secret Wars, right? And then that would also help clean up the narrative and explain where all these heroes are coming from, or how they're all able to come together. So Doctor Strange could be pivotal in doing that. But I'd also like, I think Daredevil season 2 is a good idea, and I also think that this is a prime opportunity to do another Defenders series to do, because I mean, rumor spin around, man, is that we're going to be seeing Daredevil in Secret Wars in some capacity. So this would be a good time to kind of expand on his story a little bit, depending on what's going to happen in season 2 of Daredevil. But movie wise, I definitely think Doctor Strange would be a good way to go in there and kind of not like retcon things, but clean the narrative up, make it look a little more tidy going into Secret Wars, especially after all the trouble that Marvel has had over the past couple years.
I think that's a good start. I can tell you for me, where I would start is if I took over and said, Gerald, you're going to run the MCU going forward. The first thing I would look at, Josh, are two places. I would look at the contract that Sony has for Spider-Man and to see if it's indefinite or not. And if it's not, well, I would buy my way out of that. I would go ahead and try to do what I can, whatever figure it takes to go ahead and buy my way back into getting Spider-Man exclusively under the Marvel barrier, the Marvel banner, excuse me. And then also for Hulk and Universal, I would also do the same thing. All these characters that I may have sold to other properties, sold under entities, I would, you know what, even if I had to choke on a quarter on Disney, they've got enough Disneyland money to survive. I would just go ahead and say, you know what, I want to pay whatever I need to pay to get myself everything back under the Marvel banner. I think I want to try and undo what was done decades ago when Marvel was in financial peril. So I really think that it is in their best interests to do just that, so that they have a basis going forward and full control, especially with the Spider-Man character and characters. Because as you know, part of the reason for this superhero fatigue, it's a very small part, but it's still a part, was not Spider-Man, but the offshoot of Spider-Man. The Venom movie, first one, was very much a hit. Then you started to get declining returns, and by the time Venom had his last movie, I think people were pretty much all said and done when it comes to Venom. And then you had the other failures of the movies, as far as Kraven the Hunter, Madam Web, Morbius. It's the fact that Marvel does not have full control of that Spider-Verse. It's got to be irritating to them. Yes, there are great points to what Sony has done across the Spider-Verse. And then, of course, the Spider-Man movies, for the most part, if they've not been critical hits, they've been financial hits. It's just, Josh, that you got to get this under your own control. It's just got to be irritating to Kevin Feige or whoever runs it going forward that they do not have control of what is the most popular superhero still today.
Yeah, I mean, and Sony was planning on rebooting their Spider-Man stuff. Do you remember at one time they were like, oh yeah, with the Andrew Garfield stuff, they said, we're gonna make a movie based on Aunt May. Do you remember that? Like that was
yes,
like
I do.
They cannot be trusted with the Spider-Man brand, like in no shape or form, because they
still make money off it. In fact, even the Andrew Garfield movies, which were thought in Sony to be a disappointment, they still made hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah. I mean, but also, like, how many Spider-Man of all the Spider-Mans they've made, how many times have they also ruined that Spider-Man? Twice, right? Yeah. Tobey Maguire Spider-Man series they ruined it. And same thing with the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man series. They ruined it. Like the first movies out the gate for these Spider-Man films are great, but they get so greedy when it comes to like, oh, how many people can we put on the screen? We're setting this up for this, and this. We're going to have a massive Spider-Man universe, and that ends up just killing any momentum the first or second Spider-Man films had. So at Sony, like literally, they can't help themselves. They cannot help themselves. They're like a little kid who walks into like a candy store that has those little drawers you can reach in and grab candy. Like that's what they do. That you're not supposed to put your hand in there, but they just can't help themselves.
It's funny because to me, I think sometimes to Sony that Spider-Man is a bailout. If they're not as successful or doing as well as a company or as a movie studio per se, to be more specific, then they look to Spider-Man to bail them out. Spider-Man to bail us. Spider-Man will always bail us out. Spider-Man will bail us out.
Spider-Man.
Oh, we had a bad movie here. Spider-Man will take care of it, right?
Yep.
So that's my first thing I would do. I would just say, you know what? I would make every financial effort to buy my way back to everything under my loop, including the Hulk deal with Universal, which, again, when is that expiring? Why does it have to be so vague? Can't we have, as a public, a better idea of when this stuff is going to come back under full Marvel control? I just don't think it's that much to ask. It's like this big hidden secret that nobody wants to share. And I just think it's almost childish at this point. Just let everybody know. Is it infinite for Sony? Is it, in perpetuity for Sony? Is it not? Is this magical day when Universal, returns the rights to, Marvel properties such as Hulk? Is that going to take place? Even when it comes down to Universal Studios in Florida, they have the rights to the Marvel Avengers there, which is the reason why you don't see an Avengers campus at Disney World. Just at some point, let's just write the check and let's get it all back under the roof of Disney. And that I think would provide a lot better clarification for everyone.
Yeah, it's funny because like we know for a fact, right, that the Spider-Man movies, they have to make a new one every 6 years in order to retain the rights to that character. But yeah, you're right. We literally know nothing about Universal's ties to the Hulk. Nobody knows anything. You can't find anything on the internet about it. So what did also, like, it makes you wonder, like, is there a clause in some of these contracts where they are saying that if Marvel makes something that involves the Hulk or Spider-Man, that counts as us making something that involves the Hulk or Spider-Man, and it allows us to retain the rights to it.
It's just at some point in time, it has to be clarified, and just for control's sake, for clarity's sake, and for also the fact that going forward, you can plan things a lot better for Marvel. It would just make much more sense if they just write out the check and just get that going. So with that, I think that's just, again, an overlooked, aspect of all this is the fact that they don't have full control of even their most popular properties, as far as full control of that, and that has to change. I think that's right now. You've lived so long with that aspect of lack of control for years now, but you've been able to get away with it. You've been able to provide environment. You brought up Iron Man from a also ran status to a superstar status. You brought all the Avengers from, pretty good level, or as they would say in wrestling business, mid-card status. You brought them, most of them, up to main event level status as far as Thor, Captain America, and the like.
Yeah,
you've done a great job with that, but at some point in time, it runs a little thin because you're not able to repeat that same magic with a Shang-Chi, Eternals, Moon Knight, and other players that you tried to give a spotlight to, but it just didn't resonate enough with fans. So I just think going forward, you should go ahead and try and get whatever control you can in order to fix what is wrong, and then bring back a connected storytelling line that has to be adhered to, because it just seems like they don't adhere to it. When they try to make something connected in the universe, it doesn't seem like that they really adhere to it, stick with it. They move movies around that'll jumble everything up. And then when they have a chance and opportunity to do something, Josh, like the Doctor Doom part of it, it becomes something underwhelming. That Fantastic Four First Steps last post-credit scene.
They trolled you
With
with a cartoon.
Yeah, and exactly. And then the previous one just before the end credits with Doctor Doom's appearance. We don't even know if that's RDJ in there, Robert Downey Jr. or not. Probably just some stunt actor that was there, or just somebody. It could have been a grip or somebody, the cameraman that they could have, extra guy or there on the set that you say, hey, yeah, put on the Doctor Doom outfit. It does not resonate as well as I thought, and it just seemed very underwhelming. And plus the fact, again, telling people out loud at Comic-Con in 2024 that Robert Downey Jr. was going to be your next Doctor Doom, just putting that out there because you thought it was going to get a, as they say again in the wrestling business, a cheap pop and get people interested in. Yeah, I got people interested, but again, you waited so long for the movies to follow up with that by that time it just seemed the magic ran out. I think you should have waited, done a reveal at the end of Fantastic Four First Steps. I think it would have done the movie a favor financially, and it would have done you a favor for long-term storytelling.
Yeah, I agree, man. Oh, sorry. Oh. That a lot of people I imagine went to Fantastic Four because they were expecting it to have Robert Downey Jr. in some way, shape, or form, and it didn't exactly deliver on that. But yeah, it's they're at this point, right? We're what, one movie away from the release of the beginning of the next Avengers saga, and there's been no build up towards it. We were building up towards Kang the Conqueror, and now he's gone, and now we're building up towards Robert Downey Jr. And the one chance that they did to have to like get you excited about it, they didn't really do a good job with it. So I really don't know what is going to happen up ahead. I just hope that I don't know. It's this is why I'm saying like they need to release the stuff in between now and one or two of these Avenger films, because we have no we need those Thanos moments, right? We need the end credit scene where he's juggling the Infinity Stones, or Samuel L. Jackson's going and putting a team together. We need something to get people to want to go see these movies again, and so far we don't have that.
They were so important, Josh, those end credit scenes to the MCU. I cannot tell you enough how important those end credit scenes were when they were done well, that pieced the storyline together to help set up things that wouldn't happen sometimes for years, like the first Thanos reveal, the I'll do it myself cameo that he made as far as that end credit scene way back when, I think with the Avengers or whatnot. So it just, those are the type of things that set itself up for down the line, the importance, and to wait for you to continue to watch down the line. But they chose not to. They chose to make some of these end credit scenes just self-fulfilling, bloated, comedy that didn't hit, or just messy, like that one in Captain America Brave New World with the Thinker. It was just absolutely terrible, to put for quite lack of a better term. It's probably the worst one ever. And this is when you need to hit on the most. Even if the movie is terrible, you need something to tie it into the larger universe that really works and resonates, and it didn't do a good job of that at all. Captain America Brave New World will be forgotten about because it was a terrible movie and an even worse post-credit scene.
You know what was really bad about Brave New World was the fact that you had to go back and watch. It was connected to a show. I mean, I think that is one of the biggest mistakes that they ever did, right? Like the Captain America Winter Soldier show had its moments where it was fun, but I mean that's another thing with the Thunderbolts too. Like you have two movies right now that have connections to Captain America Winter Soldier show, a show that got critically panned, right? So a lot of people saw that like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not going to sit there and watch this movie. The other Captain America I don't think it has anything to do with Anthony Mackie. I think he's great, but Captain America, the original, all you had to do was watch a movie, right? 2 hours of your time, and now these movies are having their origins or whatever you want to told in television shows. And I think that is where Marvel is tripping. That's why a lot of people aren't going to see these movies, because they're like, I don't want to sit through a 10 to 12 hour series to figure out what is happening in this movie. And I think that has been a severe, I don't know, it's really crippled a lot of these movies coming out.
It has. And again, the storytelling has been an issue in this past half decade, and I'm hoping that gets fixed now that they're going to have less opportunities or less movies to go ahead and fill up the slate and fill up the schedule. They can really truly follow Kevin Feige's dialogue in recent times, talking about how it will be better quality over quantity, and Bob Iger emulating those same words. And I'm hoping that will be the case, that they will go ahead and make the effort to make this more attainable and approachable and event watching once again. I just don't feel that the Marvel movies, even with Fantastic Four First Steps, which I was really looking forward to, Captain America Brave New World I was looking forward to, that was the one of most. You asked me on one time earlier in 2024, later in 2024, early in 2025, exactly which one I was looking forward to the most. And I said Brave New World, because I really was hoping Anthony Mackie would be able to go ahead and resonate and do well in that role. And unfortunately, it just was not given. He was just not given enough to work with in order to achieve that goal. But Thunderbolts was good, but it just, because of its dark nature, and it just didn't seem very approachable. It was not what you would call a first week in May Marvel summer box office release that traditionally would garner a lot of money. It just didn't seem like it fit that mold. I think it would maybe serve better on a Disney Plus format than maybe on a Disney film format. But it's a really good film. People are missing out on it. It's so hopefully somebody will everybody will catch it on Disney Plus going forward. But the one I really can't figure out is the Fantastic Four First Steps. That is something that, okay, $500 million worldwide, but for a movie that cost so much money, for a movie that I believe that Marvel was really behind as far as thinking that this would resonate once again with fans, with the critical response that it got, where did it all go wrong? And just seeing how these characters will be so important to the future going forward, it just needs to be something that they need to emphasize how good these characters are actually are, because that movie is really, really good.
Yeah. I mean, it but again, like it's all the stumbling that Marvel has done in the past 2 years. Because I mean, I think Marvel is not going to be able to save itself until the next phase of the MCU, and that's just it's a sad thing to say, but it's just a fact, man. I mean, people aren't going to see these movies. Like we talked about, there hasn't been a single Marvel movie that's made over $500 million this year, and it's because Marvel has dropped the ball so many times. And Fantastic Four has the unfortunate circumstance of having so many missteps in the past involving that franchise. So a lot of people, I think, are just waiting to see it when it comes out on streaming to watch it. But
yeah,
and that's unfortunate, because it is a very well put together movie. So
I think if Thunderbolts had come out 10 years ago, I think it would have made 200 to 300 more. If Fantastic Four would have come out 10 years ago, I think it could have been. I think it would have been a big success story for them.
Yeah, like we've talked about before, though. I think the true litmus test here is going to be how well Spider-Man does. And if Spider-Man can't cross that 500 million mark, I think that's when we really have to sit down and say, like, okay, I think there's a problem.
Well, my friend, it's been a great conversation. We got just about 5 minutes left in our conversation about Marvel. I know that when we do this again on a special edition of the Pop Culture Cosmos, we're going to be talking about another IP in Star Wars. So I'll save our conversation for that, because, boy, we've had some pretty good opinions on that one. I think we're more opinionated on that than Marvel, interestingly enough. But
So hold on, real quick, they just announced Ryan Gosling is starring in this new Star Wars movie, the standalone one, and Simon. We've talked about the In-Betweeners in the past. Simon Bird from the In-Betweeners is going to be in this one too, and I'm thinking to myself like, oh man, you're already like not. I love that actor, but he's not in the mainstream. And Star Wars has also been known to kill people's careers, so this is a dangerous door you're walking through right now.
Yeah, and there is a star-studded cast coming out for that. Of course, like you said, as far as Ryan Gosling taking up the role, I know that there's other, Aaron Pierre, Matt Smith, Mia Goth, Simon Bird, Jamal Westman, Daniel Ings, Amy Adams. They're all involved with it so far. That's who's been named so far in this Star Wars Starfighter mix. But we're going to get heavy into that. We're going to go ahead and get heavy into that on a future episode where we talk about what went wrong with Star Wars and can it be fixed. But some final thoughts on Marvel. My friend, do you have hope that Marvel will return to its former glory? And do we think we need it in the world of the movies today?
I will say the one great thing about Marvel stumbling so much is that we have gotten a lot more people willing to release things in theaters. And yes, I do think that those things are directly connected. Will they ever retain their former glory? It's hard to say, man, because like look at what the generation that I guess grew up in those since the years of Iron Man, right? Like they're all getting to the point where they don't have time to consume as much media as they used to. So it's really a matter of whether or not they have the power to, keep kids interested, right? The kids who are going to be in their late teens, early 20s, do they have the power to keep them interested, keep them wanting to go to the theaters, or are superheroes becoming a relic of the past? Like there was a time when Iron Man came out and everybody was selling comic books. They were everywhere. Target, Barnes and Noble, Walmart, all of these places carried stuff like that. And Marvel's doing an amazing job of marketing things. But now the only time you can tell, merchandise wise that a new movie's coming out is whether or not, Target or Walmart has the new Marvel Legends figures stocked. So, if Disney can't capture the younger people, then I don't think that the Marvel films are going to ever retain that former glory.
Very well said. As we talked about that before, that very fact, and probably we'll talk about again when it comes to Star Wars. There was a recent Variety article saying that Disney has lost young men, Gen Z men, that demographic entirely. And if they don't get that back, whether it's through Star Wars, whether it's through Marvels, whether it's through other IP, for Marvel, it's key. That's a key demographic that they've lost in recent years, and they have to get that back. And if they don't, superhero movies may go in the dark once again, my friend.
Mm-hmm. Before we head out here, let me ask you, rumor floating around about Robert Downey Jr. and Ryan Reynolds
fighting. Yeah, I don't know. My daughter heard that one, and maybe it just spices things up. Maybe maybe they're feeling the pressure to succeed with Avengers Doomsday, and if they are, maybe that's not such a bad thing after all.
Yeah, I'm surprised that hasn't happened sooner though, with as many like big names Marvel has had intertwined with each other over the years. Yeah, I'm surprised it took this long to happen.
We'll see if it does. But again, the future of Marvel is in question, but we'll ride it through with you right here on the Pop Culture Cosmos. So for Josh and Magnificent Peterson, it's me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching this thing. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.
Welcome to the pop culture cosmos.